The battlefield was silent, too silent. No clash of swords, no war cries piercing the air. Yet soldiers fell one after another, gripped by unseen forces. No wounds, no blood spilled, just a creeping death that struck without warning or noise. This was the dark art of ancient chemical warfare, long before we understood microbes, toxins, or gases. Nature itself was weaponized, and armies wielded poisons, diseases, and noxious fumes to devastate foes without a fight. What exactly were these invisible killers? And how did ancient societies turn plants, toxins, and decay into the weapons of mass destruction that shaped history? Today, we explore 5 of the most brutal and ingenious weapons hidden in the annals of time. 1. Poisoned arrows and darts, the silent killer. In the dense jungles and rugged steppes of ancient civilizations, archers went beyond steel to sharpen their arsenal in the chemical world. Using deadly plants like aconite, known as wolfsbane for its swift lethality, and toxins from snakes and frogs, they created venomous coatings for their weapons. The poisons induced paralysis, respiratory failure, and horrifying pain, often far worse than the physical wound itself. This method demanded a deep understanding of regional flora and fauna, passed orally within warrior clans. These poisons weren't just about killing. They played a strategic role in instilling fear and hesitation in enemy lines. Arrows became instruments of psychological warfare. Certain tribes, like the Amazonian natives, crafted complex poison blends tailored for stealth hunting and war, refining recipes that remain a mystery to modern science. Even ancient texts hint at rituals and ceremonies around poison preparation, imbuing these weapons with spiritual significance as well. Yet, death from a single arrow was only one face of chemical warfare. What other weapons literally turned siege into a slow suffocation? 2. Toxic smoke screens, ancient siege gas. When battle lines stalled, ancient armies resorted to the lethal art of smoke warfare. Siege commanders burned sulfur and pitch mixtures to unleash toxic clouds into defenders' strongholds. Sulfur dioxide, a potent irritant, breached even fortified walls, causing respiratory collapse and panic. Meanwhile, pitch and bitumen added sticky, acrid fumes that burned eyes and lungs alike. Historical records detail Spartan sieges where attackers combined fire with chemical smoke, turning royal palaces and underground chambers into suffocating death traps. Such tactics required knowledge of chemistry and physics to produce the right smokes, making this an early form of chemical weapon engineering. Moreover, these smoke attacks served psychological aims. Defenders felt surrounded, helpless, stripped of fresh air and hope, a suffocating siege within a physical one. The Romans perfected such tactics in major sieges, blending incendiary chemistry with military engineering to weaken even the most resilient cities. Smoke and fumes choked the air, but what about when armies chose to weaponize life itself? Biological horrors hurled over battlements. 3. Biological bombs, catapulting corpses and disease. Biological warfare isn't a modern invention. The terrifying practice of launching infected corpses into enemy fortresses is one of history's most gruesome examples. The 14th century siege of Kaffa is infamous. Mongol warriors reportedly catapulted plague-ridden bodies over city walls, introducing the Black Death into Europe. Earlier, Assyrian and Scythian armies employed decaying animal carcasses during sieges to poison food and water supplies subtly. The overwhelming stench alone was enough to demoralize defenders, but the real terror was in the invisible contagion spreading sickness and death. These tactics exploited knowledge of disease transmission long before germ theory. Disease spread through contaminated air, water, or even physical contact, turning once prosperous cities into graves. Such warfare blurred the lines between combat and epidemic, instilling fear not just of the enemy's sword, but of death invisible and unavoidable. If biological terror invaded through corpses, an even more insidious threat lurked where communities sought sustenance. Water poisoned to kill without a trace. 4. Poisoned wells, the invisible weapon. Water sustains life, but it was also a target in ancient siegecraft. Strategists and generals frequently aimed to poison enemy wells with toxic compounds, arsenic, mercury, or crushed poisonous plants, to induce epidemics and sabotage. These poisons often acted slowly, complicating diagnosis and response, causing panic, confusion, and dwindling morale within besieged cities. The Babylonians, Assyrians, and later medieval armies documented such methods, highlighting calculated plans to break fortresses before engaging in open conflict. Poisoned water was a weapon of attrition, invisible and insidious, striking soldiers and civilians alike and extending the war beyond the battlefield to the very heart of a city's survival. Historians suggest that some of history's largest sieges likely fell due to the silent poison in the well rather than sheer force of arms. Beyond poisoned water and smoke, ancient assassins turned to nature's deadliest botanical weapons, quiet, swift, and devastating. 5. Mandrake and belladonna, deadly botanical assassins. Mandrake and belladonna, known since antiquity as toxic plants weaving between poison, medicine, and myth, served as lethal weapons in the shadows of ancient courts. Mandrake, with its hallucinogenic properties and folklore of deadly screams when uprooted, was highly prized. Belladonna, or deadly nightshade, was notorious for its rapid paralysis and deadly dosage window. While rulers and assassins employed these poisons covertly, their effects were drastic, inducing paralysis, hallucinations, respiratory failure, sometimes death. They were often administered clandestinely in food, drink, or on weapon tips to incapacitate targets without a fight. Their use involved intricate knowledge of physiology and effects, encompassing the blurred boundaries between toxicology and sorcery. They were tools of political intrigue as deadly as any sword in the arsenal. These botanical assassins shaped the fate of rulers and empires. Yet, even darker secrets of ancient warfare await discovery, hidden beyond the shadow of these poisons. From silent poisoned arrows to suffocating smoke, from diseased bombarding corpses to poisoned water and deadly plants, ancient chemical warfare reveals humanity's brutal ingenuity long before science explained toxins. Subscribe and hit the bell to explore the darkest corners of ancient war with us.